You know, it's a funny thing to say, but I've been told people actually hate me, and not just hate. They genuinely fear me. It might sound harsh, but it's the truth I sometimes encounter. The irony is, these individuals who harbor such strong feelings about me are some of the most brilliant, creative, and remarkably entrepreneurial minds I've ever had the privilege of knowing. So, what's my secret weapon? What is this dreaded tool I wield that makes them recoil and, dare I say, despise me? Well, I'm a communication professor, and as a professor, I possess the ability to do something called cold calling. For those unfamiliar, that's where I can casually look at a student, right there in the middle of a lecture, and ask, what are your immediate thoughts on what we just discussed? How does that resonate with you personally? What do you feel about it, and how does it impact you? And let me tell you, the very moment those words leave my lips, a palpable wave of panic sweeps through the room. It's not confined to just my students. It's a universal human reaction. That stomach-lurching moment when we're suddenly called upon to speak articulately, to formulate our thoughts coherently, to express ourselves confidently on the spot. Can we really do it? The pressure is immense. Now, let me be absolutely clear. And please, rest assured, I never actually cold call on my students. I genuinely believe it's a rude practice, and I know deeply how incredibly difficult it is. But the fear of it, that's a very real, very tangible thing. It's not just a classroom phenomenon. Think about it. A staggering 85% of people openly confess they fear speaking in public more than anything else. And honestly, if I'm being completely frank, I suspect that the remaining 15% are probably just fibbing a little. I'm quite certain that if we dug deep enough, we could find some situation that would make even them feel a knot of nerves in their stomach. So, my mission today, my heartfelt goal, is to share with you some truly practical tips and techniques. These aren't abstract theories. They are actionable insights that you can genuinely use to feel more comfortable, more confident, and more at ease when you're speaking. In essence, my aim is to equip you with the skills to think fast and talk smart, no matter the situation. Overview. Navigating the communication landscape to achieve this. To truly master the art of thinking fast and talking smart, we're going to embark on a journey through 4 distinct, yet interconnected, steps. Think of them as the pillars of effective communication. First, we'll dive deep into your approach, the fundamental mindset you bring to any communication situation. Then, we'll turn our attention to the audience you're speaking to, because understanding them is paramount. Next, we'll explore the often overlooked context in which you find yourself, as it profoundly shapes your message. And finally, we'll dissect the various structures you can employ to ensure your messages are not just heard, but truly understood and remembered. The power of your approach. Let's begin where all effective communication truly starts, with your approach. I was given a powerful reminder about the immense importance of our approach many years ago. Right at the beginning of my marriage, my wife and I had just moved in together, and we quickly discovered that married life brought with it an entirely new set of, shall we say, negotiations. We found ourselves caught in what we affectionately, or sometimes not so affectionately, called our bathroom brawls. These weren't grand, philosophical debates. They were often over the most trivial things. Is the toilet seat up? Is the toilet seat down? Oh, the drama. But by far, the most legendary, the most hotly contested argument my wife and I ever had, believe it or not, was over toothpaste. You see, my wife is a quintessential roller. She meticulously squeezes the toothpaste from the very bottom of the tube, rolling it up neatly as she goes, creating a perfectly compressed, organized cylinder. And me? I am, and I confess this with a slight chuckle, a squeezer. I just grab the tube wherever feels convenient in the moment, usually the middle, and squeeze. Now, for all of you rollers out there, I truly appreciate the fine artwork, the meticulous dedication you pour into crafting that perfectly rolled toothpaste tube. And I completely understand that the most agonizing, soul-crushing thing that could possibly happen to you is for a rogue squeezer, like myself, to come along and utterly demolish all that painstaking effort you've so carefully put in. But for me, in the dim light of the morning, still half asleep, simply getting toothpaste out of the tube feels like an act of triumphant aggression. I actually feel a surge of primal power, both in the morning and in the evening, when I just squeeze, and so we would fight incessantly over these tiny, seemingly insignificant things that, in the grand scheme of our lives, truly didn't matter. Finally, my wife, who is, let's be honest, much, much smarter than I am, called a definitive timeout. She looked at me with a mixture of exasperation and profound love and said, "What in the world are we doing here? We've just gotten married. We deeply love each other. Yet we're constantly bickering over these trivial matters. We absolutely need to look at this differently." And the absolute moment, we started reframing our bathroom brawls, not as inevitable conflicts, but as genuine opportunities to truly learn about each other's habits and preferences, opportunities to make thoughtful concessions, opportunities to truly collaborate and find common ground. Everything, and I mean everything, began to change. And I am incredibly happy to report, with 15 beautiful years of marriage under our belt, that we no longer engage in epic battles over toothpaste. The tube, I'm proud to say, now lives in harmonious neutrality. This exact same powerful principle of approach holds profoundly true in the realm of communication. Most of us, when we find ourselves in situations where we need to communicate, whether it's giving a presentation, having a difficult conversation, or simply sharing an idea, we instinctively perceive these situations as threatening. We immediately see them as potential opportunities for spectacular failure. And I'm here today to strongly suggest that we absolutely need to change that ingrained mindset. We need to consciously choose to approach communication in an open, welcoming way. We must actively see it as an incredible opportunity, an opportunity to freely share our valuable ideas, to articulate our deeply held beliefs, and to unveil our innovative solutions. And when we consciously choose to adopt this perspective of openness, something truly transformative happens, all of a sudden. Something that we previously dreaded with every fiber of our being transforms into something we not only tolerate, but actually embrace. It becomes an exciting challenge, not a terrifying ordeal. So, please remember this, the very first, and arguably the most crucial, step towards becoming an incredibly effective communicator is to approach every communication opportunity with a mindset of openness, curiosity, and genuine willingness to connect. Having an open and receptive approach is absolutely fundamental, but it's simply not enough on its own. The next critical step in our communication journey is to profoundly consider the audience to whom we are speaking. And to me, the most effective way to approach this is actually the opposite of what most people instinctively do. Most of us, when preparing to communicate, tend to focus intensely on ourselves. Here's what I want to say, or here's what I feel compelled to say. I would argue, with absolute conviction, that this is precisely the wrong starting point. Instead, your primary thought should always be, what does my audience need to hear? This might sound like a subtle linguistic trick, a mere rearrangement of words, almost like a verbal jujitsu move, but in fact, it represents a profound, fundamental difference in your communication philosophy. When I consistently ask myself, what does my audience truly need? It immediately, irrevocably, puts me in service of my audience. The entire focus shifts from my agenda to their needs, their understanding, and their benefit. And to genuinely understand those needs, to truly be in service to them, I have to engage in a bit of reconnaissance. I have to meticulously ask myself, who exactly are these people in front of me? What makes them tick? What do they care about? So, when we embark on this vital audience reconnaissance, I believe there are 3 critical questions we absolutely need to ask ourselves about the people we're speaking to. What is their knowledge? What do they already know about this topic? What level of familiarity do they possess? And perhaps even more importantly, if their current knowledge isn't sufficient, what can we do to scaffold that information? How can we build clear, accessible bridges of understanding? How can we provide them with the foundational tools and context they need to fully grasp our message, rather than leaving them feeling lost or overwhelmed? This might mean simplifying jargon, providing background information, or explaining complex concepts in layman's terms. In addition to their existing knowledge, We absolutely need to be thinking deeply about their expectations. And by expectations, I mean, quite simply, what is it that they expect from me in this particular interaction? In this specific communication setting, most audiences, let's be honest, have heard countless presentations of the type you might be giving. Perhaps it's a high-stakes business pitch, a compelling advertisement or marketing presentation, or even an inspiring TED Talk. Your audience has likely experienced these kinds of communications before, perhaps many times over. So what do they implicitly expect from you as the communicator? Once you understand those unspoken expectations, you then have a powerful choice. You can choose to conform to those expectations, delivering exactly what they anticipate. Or, perhaps more strategically, you can choose to subtly or even overtly violate those expectations. Let me share a personal anecdote about violating expectations. I have two young boys at home, and over the years, I've learned a powerful lesson. Sometimes, intentionally defying their expectations is actually the single most effective thing I can do to achieve the communication outcome I need from them. There are moments, as any parent knows, when your children manage to truly upset you. And in the past, when my boys would push my buttons, my immediate, instinctual reaction was to raise my voice. I'd yell, I'd scold. But it was always, to no avail. Absolutely nothing would happen. My frustrated attempts at communication were simply ignored. And believe me, for a communication guy like me, being ignored is a pretty tough pill to swallow. So, I decided to try a radical shift in my approach. What I started to do, and this is key, when I'm really upset with my boys, when I'm truly at my wit's end, I do the complete opposite of what they expect. I lower my voice. I speak in a calm, almost whisper, and you know what happens without fail. They stop dead in their tracks, their eyes widen, they lean in, they listen. Violating expectations, when done thoughtfully and strategically, can sometimes be an incredibly potent tool in your arsenal as a communicator. It breaks the pattern, demands attention, and often creates a much more impactful moment. The final, incredibly important thing we need to think about concerning our audience is, what are their attitudes? The entire way you choose to frame and deliver your communication will be profoundly influenced by what your audience already thinks and feels about the topic you're addressing. Are they already strongly in favor of it? Are they perhaps vehemently against it? Or are they hesitant, perhaps a bit skeptical, or even genuinely agnostic, sitting firmly on the fence, waiting to be persuaded? These are the crucial questions you absolutely need to be asking yourself, consciously and deliberately, every single time you prepare to communicate. Tailoring your message to their existing attitudes is key to building rapport and achieving your objectives. So, to reiterate, we need to deeply appreciate our audience, not just acknowledge them, but truly understand and value them. I learned a foundational lesson about this appreciation when my older child was in kindergarten. I had volunteered to help out in his classroom one day. The teacher had to step out to take an urgent phone call or something, and in her brief absence, I was put in charge of an art project. Oh dear heavens, was that a colossal mistake? Within minutes, the kids were running wild, glue sticks were flying, glitter was everywhere. I was frantically shouting, "Stop this, Johnny," and "Sally, please stop doing that." But nobody, absolutely nobody, listened to a word I said. My pleas were met with blank stares or continued chaos. Then the teacher, who possessed an almost Yoda-like wisdom and calm, returned. She surveyed the delightful mayhem that had ensued in her brief absence. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. She simply looked at the children and, with remarkable composure, started to quietly reward the positive behavior she observed. "Jana," she said, her voice gentle yet firm, "what a lovely, tidy way you've cleaned up your crayons." Then, turning to another child, "Samuel, thank you so much for walking so carefully with the scissors." The effect was instantaneous and astonishing. The students, almost as if a spell had been cast, stopped in their tracks. They literally changed their behavior, reining in their wild energy. I learned then and there, in that chaotic kindergarten classroom, that you truly need to understand your audience, what motivates them, what they respond to, and adjust your approach accordingly. And to this very day, I consciously try to apply those profound principles in every communication I undertake. I also learned unequivocally that I could never, ever teach elementary school students if positive reinforcement is the key and guilt and shame don't work, then I'm utterly unqualified for that job. So, yes, knowing your audience intimately, truly understanding their needs, expectations, and attitudes matters more than you can possibly imagine, but our journey doesn't end with knowing your audience. Beyond that crucial understanding, you must also deeply appreciate and account for the context in which you speak. Every single time you utter a word, every time you deliver a message, you are operating within a particular, unique context. And to me, context isn't just one thing. It comes in a fascinating variety of forms and nuances. The first, and perhaps most straightforward, aspect of context we need to seriously consider is time. Specifically, what time of day are you communicating? If you're talking early in the morning, say 8 a.m. when people are still shaking off sleep and chugging their first cup of coffee, you might need to bring a little extra energy, a little more vibrancy to your delivery to keep people truly engaged and prevent them from drifting off. The same principle applies, perhaps even more acutely, after lunch, when people are experiencing that notorious food coma, that heavy, lethargic feeling that sets in as their bodies digest. I taught high school many years ago, and I have a sneaking suspicion my principal didn't like me very much. Why? Because she consistently assigned me the freshman classes right before lunch, and then, to my utter dismay, right after lunch. And if you know anything at all about 14 and 15-year-old kids, you'll understand that they have two primary needs: an insatiable appetite for food and an overwhelming desire for social interaction. So, by the time my first class of freshmen arrived, having already endured 4 hours of academic classes, they were utterly dead tired. Their brains were fried. They could barely move, let alone engage in complex thought. Then, right after lunch, when my second batch of freshmen joined me, they were completely amped up, buzzing from their cafeteria food, their sugary drinks, and the sheer exhilaration of having just spent time with their friends. It was an absolute frenzy. In my classroom, and here's the kicker, I had to teach both of these vastly different groups the exact same curriculum, the same challenging concepts. How did I manage it? I didn't try to force a square peg into a round hole. I completely changed the way we approached. The class for each group, the class before lunch, knowing their exhaustion, was highly collaborative, filled with hands-on activities, and encouraged lots of movement to keep their blood flowing and minds active. The class after lunch, conversely, was a little more mellow, a bit more structured, allowing them to channel their post-lunch energy in a more controlled environment. You simply must address the context, particularly the timing of your communication, for your message to be genuinely effective and to truly resonate with your audience. Ignoring the clock is ignoring a crucial piece of the puzzle beyond the practicalities of time. Context also profoundly involves emotion. This is a layer of communication that is often overlooked, yet it's incredibly powerful. Most of us, when we prepare to communicate, primarily focus on the logical information we want to convey. What are the facts, the data, the arguments that reside in my head, and that I need to transmit to you? We meticulously craft our arguments, organize our points, and ensure our data is sound. But what we often forget, or perhaps underestimate, is that we are also, simultaneously, always communicating a feeling. Okay, I completely understand your requirement for a significantly longer response, aiming for 55+ characters while still maintaining a natural, fluent, emotionally engaging, and easy-to-follow tone, keeping the original meaning and message intact. I apologize for not meeting that expectation in my previous attempts. I will now expand upon each point in great detail, weaving in more extensive explanations, vivid imagery, expanded examples, and deeper insights to reach the desired length. Without losing the core essence of your script, let's dive into the art and science of effective communication, exploring every facet to truly grasp its power. Sometimes, when we stand before an audience, or even when we're just sharing an idea with a colleague, our intent is crystal clear. We're striving to ignite excitement, We want to fill them with a burning passion, to stir their souls, to infuse them with a boundless energy that propels them forward. We want to motivate them, not just intellectually, but deep within their very being, urging them to embrace a new perspective, to take action, to embark on a journey they might have previously hesitated to consider. It's about creating an infectious enthusiasm, a sense of shared purpose that makes them lean in, eager to become part of something bigger than themselves. Imagine a motivational speaker, brimming with charisma, painting a picture so vivid, so alluring, that every person in the room feels an undeniable pull towards the vision being presented. That's the power of exciting and motivating with intention. But then, there are those other moments, those critical junctures when our purpose shifts dramatically. Instead of inspiring exhilaration, we might find ourselves in a position where we need to, quite frankly, scare them. Not to traumatize, not to terrorize, but to awaken them to a pressing reality, a looming threat, a potential pitfall that, if ignored, could lead to dire consequences. This isn't about gratuitous fear-mongering. It's about creating that burning platform. Think of a ship engulfed in flames. No one wants to stay on that ship. The intense heat, the smoke, the imminent danger all coalesce to force an immediate, decisive choice: jump or perish. In the world of communication, this burning platform is a metaphor for a critical situation, a crisis, a risk so significant that it demands immediate and profound change. It's about highlighting the urgency, making the status quo intolerable, so that the perceived pain of inaction far outweighs the discomfort of transformation. It's about starkly presenting the consequences of not changing, compelling individuals or groups to move away from complacency and embrace necessary evolution. It might be a business leader showing declining market share, a public health official illustrating the spread of a disease, or an environmentalist detailing the irreversible damage of climate change. The emotion here is one of serious concern, even apprehension, but with a clear path offered for escape or improvement. And then, in perhaps a more subtle but equally vital vein, there are times when our primary objective is simply to instill confidence. This isn't about grand gestures or fear-inducing warnings. This is about building trust, establishing credibility, and creating a bedrock of belief in what we are conveying. It's about looking your audience in the eye, metaphorically or literally, and saying, with conviction, "You should believe in what I'm saying." This might involve presenting data with clarity, speaking with unwavering certainty, sharing personal experiences that lend authenticity, or demonstrating a deep mastery of the subject matter. When you speak with confidence, when you genuinely believe in your message, that conviction becomes contagious. Your audience, sensing your assurance, is far more likely to open their minds and hearts to your words. This is the bedrock of persuasion, the foundation upon which all other communicative goals are built. Without confidence, even the most exciting or frightening message can fall flat. It's about projecting authority, trustworthiness, and a clear sense of purpose that reassures your listeners. The profound lesson here, the overarching truth that governs all effective communication, is this: we absolutely must think deeply about the emotion we intend to evoke, just as much, if not more, than we focus on the raw information we're delivering. Information alone is often inert. It's the emotional connection, the feeling we create, that breathes life into facts and figures, making them memorable, impactful, and actionable. Are we aiming for hope, concern, joy, urgency, confidence? Each requires a distinct emotional resonance, carefully woven into the fabric of our words. Beyond the inherent emotional landscape of our message, there's another crucial, often overlooked, layer of context that profoundly impacts how our communication is received. This final, yet immensely significant, piece of the puzzle has to do with where you're physically speaking. It's about the very ground you stand on, the walls that surround you, the atmosphere you inhabit. Location matters in ways we rarely fully appreciate. Let me share a story that perfectly encapsulates this principle. Just the other day, as I was flipping through the newspaper, yes, I still read a physical newspaper sometimes, I stumbled upon an incredibly insightful article. It detailed the astonishing success of the top-selling Girl Scout in the entire state of California. This year, During the Girl Scouts' annual, highly anticipated cookie drive, a tradition deeply embedded in American culture, this young entrepreneur made a strategic decision that catapulted her sales far beyond anyone else's. Where did she set up her table? Adorned with boxes of Thin Mints, Samoas, and tagalongs? Not outside a bustling supermarket, or a busy mall, or even a quaint coffee shop. No, she intentionally set up shop in front of a medical marijuana dispensary. Think about that for a moment. In a place where adults were likely feeling relaxed, perhaps a little hungry, and certainly open to a moment of simple pleasure, this young Girl Scout offered them a delightful, familiar treat. It was an unexpected, almost whimsical juxtaposition, and the result? She sold more cookies than anybody. This isn't just a quirky anecdote, it's a powerful, tangible demonstration that location matters. It's not just about foot traffic, it's about the mindset of the people in that specific location, their needs, their emotional state, and their receptiveness to your message or product. The context of the dispensary created a unique predisposition in her potential customers that maximized her sales. So when you're preparing to communicate, whether it's a formal presentation, a casual conversation, or even a digital message, pause and think deeply about the way the room is set up. Is it a large auditorium with a stage, promoting a sense of grandeur and formality? Is it a cozy conference room, encouraging intimate discussion and collaboration? Are there visual aids readily available? Or is it a bare space? Does the seating arrangement foster connection or separation? Are people comfortable? Is the lighting conducive to engagement? Every single detail of the physical setup subtly, yet powerfully, influences the dynamic between you and your audience. A crowded, stuffy room might make people restless and less receptive, while an open, well-lit space could foster a sense of ease and openness. Furthermore, extend your consideration to the broader environment. Is it a live interaction where you can see facial expressions, read body language, and respond in real time, or is it virtual? Perhaps a video conference call, a pre-recorded video, or even just an email. These distinctions are paramount. A live setting allows for spontaneity, for immediate feedback, for building rapport through eye contact and shared physical space. A virtual setting, conversely, demands greater clarity, often relies more heavily on vocal tone or visual presentation, and requires different strategies to maintain engagement. When you can't physically feel the room, the nuances of a virtual call, background noise, internet connectivity, screen fatigue, all become part of the communication landscape. All of these elements, the physical space, the seating, the lighting, the live versus virtual distinction, change the way that you communicate. They dictate your pacing, your vocal projection, your use of visuals, even your choice of words. You wouldn't speak to a small, intimate group the same way you would address thousands in a vast arena, nor would you craft an email with the same flow as a spoken lecture. Therefore, it is absolutely essential that we need to think about location, in its broadest sense, as a fundamental context for our message. Now that we've considered our approach, whether we're exciting, scaring, or instilling confidence, and the crucial role of our audience, and the overall context in which we find ourselves, we arrive at another pillar of effective communication: the way we structure our messages. This element is not just important, it is foundational to human comprehension and memory. It is an undeniable truth that it is much easier for humans to understand information when it is structured. Our brains are naturally wired for patterns, for order, for predictability. When information is presented in a logical, coherent framework, it aligns with our cognitive processing, making the act of understanding almost effortless. Conversely, unstructured, rambling information is akin to a tangled ball of yarn, difficult to untangle, frustrating to follow, and ultimately largely discarded. The impact of structure isn't just anecdotal, it's empirically proven. In fact, studies show that we remember information up to 40% better when it's structured. Think about that for a moment, a significant, tangible improvement in retention, simply by organizing your thoughts effectively. This isn't just about making your audience feel smart. It's about enabling them to actually absorb and recall your message long after you've delivered it. So what do I mean by this? Let me take you back in time, for those of us who can remember it. Some of you listening are probably too young to have experienced this particular form of mental gymnastics, but those of us of my age, when we wanted to call somebody on the phone, we didn't just tap a picture. No, we actually had to remember a phone number. My kids today, they look at a picture, push a button, and poof, the other person starts talking on the phone. They have contact lists, speed dials, voice commands. They don't know the struggle. We had it much harder. We literally had to remember 10 digits. Try to remember a random 10-digit number right now. It's tough, isn't it? Our short-term memory struggles with such a long, uninterrupted string of numbers. 10 digits are inherently hard to remember. So what did we do instinctively, almost unconsciously? We put them in a structure, 3, 3, and 4. Think about a common phone number, 5551 to 3 for 5, 6, 7. We chunked it into smaller, more manageable units. That's how we remembered. We transformed a seemingly random sequence into a digestible pattern. That, precisely, is what I mean by a structure. It's about the information being put in a way that it makes it easy not only for you as a speaker, but also for the audience to remember. When you organize your content, you're not just making it easier to present. You're building a cognitive pathway for your audience, guiding their minds, making the learning and retention process feel natural and intuitive. You're creating signposts, landmarks, and logical connections that allow their brains to effortlessly follow your train of thought and store the information efficiently. Now, having practiced and observed effective communication for years, I've developed a deep appreciation for several powerful structures. I have lots of favorite structures, tools, that I rely on again and again to ensure my message hits home. You might even see some of these structures illustrated up here behind me as we speak, as visual aids to reinforce their effectiveness. The first fundamental structure, a classic for a reason, is the chronological structure, past, present, future. It's simple, intuitive, and incredibly effective for narrative flow or for demonstrating evolution and progress. With this structure, you begin by outlining here's how things used to be. You paint a picture of the historical context, the starting point, or the initial state of affairs. This sets the stage, giving your audience a clear reference point. Then, you transition seamlessly to here's how they are today. You bring your audience into the current reality, detailing the present situation, the challenges, the achievements, or the prevailing conditions. This establishes relevance and anchors the discussion in the immediate. Finally, and crucially, you conclude with here's where they're going in the future. This is where you cast a vision, propose solutions, outline next steps, or predict future outcomes. This forward-looking perspective provides hope, direction, and a call to action. A chronological structure can truly help you navigate your audience from one place to the next with effortless grace. It's like a guided tour through time, where each stop builds upon the last, leading to a logical and satisfying conclusion. And quite frankly, structure does something profoundly important. Structure sets expectations. When your audience recognizes a pattern, they subconsciously anticipate what's coming next, which greatly reduces cognitive load and increases engagement. Think about it. You can't be lost if you have a map. Your structure provides that essential map for your audience, laying out the journey step by step. And for historical narratives, process explanations, or discussions of progress, the chronological structure is incredibly helpful for that. It offers clarity and a sense of progression that makes complex information digestible. The next structure, one that is particularly potent for persuasion, happens to be the problem-solution benefit structure. This is, without a doubt, one of the most persuasive structures out there. It directly addresses an audience's pain points and offers a clear path to relief and improvement. You start by explaining what the issue is. You articulate the problem in detail, highlighting its negative impact and why it matters to your audience. You want them to feel the pain of the problem, to truly understand its scope and significance. This creates a sense of urgency and a desire for resolution. Once the problem is clearly established, you then talk about how to solve it. This is where you introduce your proposed solution, detailing its mechanics, its feasibility, and how it directly addresses the identified issue. You provide a clear roadmap out of the problem, And finally, and most compellingly, you present the benefits to the people. This is where you paint a vivid picture of the positive outcomes, the advantages, and the improvements that your solution will bring to your audience's lives. It's not just about solving the problem, it's about illustrating the better future that awaits them. This taps into their desires and makes your solution irresistible. Finally, we arrive at my absolute favorite structure, the one that I use the most, the one I consider my go-to for almost any communicative challenge. I affectionately call this the MacGyver of all structures, because much like the resourceful TV character who could solve any problem with whatever was at hand, this can get you through any situation. It is the what, so what, now what structure. Its genius lies in its simplicity and adaptability. You begin by telling people what the issue is. You present the core fact, the topic, the event, or the concept. This is the neutral, factual starting point. It's simply the information itself. For example, the company's quarterly profits are down by 15%. Then, and this is the crucial, emotionally engaging step, you tell them why it's important in that so what step. This is where you connect the what to your audience's world, their concerns, their aspiration, or their pain points. You explain the relevance, the implications, the impact. So what? This means we won't have enough budget for the new project, and it impacts our ability to innovate and compete in the market. This is where you answer the unspoken question in every audience member's mind. Why should I care? And then, to provide direction and a call to action, you tell them what's next, what's coming. This is the forward-looking component, outlining the next steps, the actions to be taken, or the future implications. Now what? We need to immediately identify cost-cutting measures and explore new revenue streams to recover. This what, so what, now what structure is incredibly versatile. It's genuinely like a Swiss Army knife for communication. You can use it in countless situations. If you're teaching, what is photosynthesis? So what? Why does it matter for life on Earth? Now what? How can we apply this knowledge to sustainable agriculture? If you are trying to motivate people, what is the challenge facing our team? So what? Why does this impact each of us personally and our collective success? Now, what actions must we take together to overcome it? And you can use it even if you're introducing somebody. Imagine introducing a guest speaker. Change the what to a who, and you've got your introduction. Who is Dr. Emily Carter? So what? Why is her expertise in AI incredibly relevant to our discussion today? Now what? Please join me in welcoming Dr. Carter to the stage. The fundamental power of structure is that it helps keep your audience together and in line. This isn't just a metaphor. Let me share a personal anecdote that profoundly shaped my understanding of this. When I was an undergraduate student, I held what was, for me, the most coveted and highest-paying job on campus. I was a university tour guide, and boy, did I need money back then. As a young, ambitious student, every dollar counted, and this job offered a lifeline to become a tour guide at my institution. I underwent an intensive, rigorous 12-week training program. It wasn't just about memorizing facts. Oh, I learned lots of interesting, some would even say useless, facts about my university. We were steeped in historical dates, architectural styles, famous alumni quirks, and obscure campus traditions. These were the things they drilled into our heads, along with practical skills, such as how to walk backwards seamlessly and confidently while talking, which, to this day, I still can do in a perfectly straight line. It was a bizarre, but surprisingly useful skill for navigating campus sidewalks while pointing out landmarks. However, amidst all the facts and physical drills, there was the most important thing they taught us. Our trainers, seasoned veterans of countless tours, looked us in the eye and said, with absolute solemnity, above all else, to be a truly great tour guide at this institution is to never lose your audience. They hammered this home. They clarified, emphatically, you are a bad tour guide if your tour group gets lost. Think about the practical implications of this. A lost group meant a disrupted schedule, frustrated prospective students and their families, and a significant failure in conveying the university's message. It was a tangible metric of success or failure. The same profound truth holds when you're speaking. Whether it's a formal presentation, a team meeting, or a casual conversation. Where you're trying to convey an important idea, structure keeps people together. Just as a tour guide's route ensures everyone stays on track and understands where they are going, a well-structured message ensures your audience follows your train of thought, stays engaged, and doesn't get mentally lost when your message lacks structure. It's like a tour guide suddenly veering off course, rambling aimlessly, or jumping between unrelated points. Your audience will quickly become disoriented, disengaged, and ultimately, they'll miss your destination. We need structure not just for our own clarity, but for the fundamental comprehension and adherence of our audience. We need structure. It's the framework that holds our communication together. Conclusion: so, as we bring these ideas together, we can clearly see that these powerful tools we've explored, the very instruments that empower us to get our audience engaged and deeply involved, and that help us convey our message with maximum impact, are precisely the same tools that helped my students learn to love speaking and truly master the art of doing it well. They transformed from hesitant, nervous prisoners into confident, compelling communicators. The essence of this transformation, and indeed of all effective communication, comes down to four fundamental pillars. First, it's profoundly about the approach you take. Are you aiming to inspire, to warn, to build trust, or a combination of these? Your intentional approach sets the emotional tone and informs every word you choose. Second, it's critically about understanding your audience. Who are they? What are their needs, their desires, their existing knowledge, and their potential biases? Tailoring your message to your audience is non-negotiable for genuine connection. Third, the context in which you're communicating is paramount. This includes the physical environment, the social setting, the purpose of the gathering, and even the prevailing mood. Recognizing and adapting to context allows your message to land effectively. And fourth, and undeniably crucial, is the structure of your message. This is the backbone, the scaffolding that supports your ideas, making them comprehensible, memorable, and actionable. Now, I'm constantly on the lookout for fresh, relatable examples of these principles in action, anything that can help people truly understand their power. And the other day, during a simple morning ritual, I had another aha moment. I was just sitting there, eating breakfast, and I looked across the table at my soy milk carton. And it hit me. I thought, you know what? This is a great example. It encapsulates all these principles in a deceptively simple product. Think about it. Silk soy milk. First, let's consider the audience. Silk soy milk is meticulously targeted to a very specific audience, primarily people who are interested in eating healthy and actively seeking plant-based alternatives, or more specifically, people who are lactose intolerant and cannot consume dairy milk without discomfort. The brand doesn't try to appeal to everyone. It has a clear demographic in mind. Understanding their needs and dietary restrictions. Next, consider the context and approach. The very name of the product, Silk, is a brilliant piece of marketing. It's not just a random word. It's a clever, evocative combination of the words soy and milk. But more than that, it's a word that instantly speaks to the audience's desire to have something rich, something expensive, something yummy. Silk evokes a feeling of smoothness, luxury, and quality. It's an approach designed to make a non-dairy product feel indulgent and premium, appealing to both their health consciousness and their desire for a pleasurable experience. It's about overcoming the potential perception of alternative or less than by associating it with a desirable texture and taste. Furthermore, consider its location within the grocery store, its retail context. If you notice where you buy Silk soy milk now, it's almost always strategically placed next to other milk products. This wasn't always the case originally. When soy milk first gained popularity, it used to be relegated to the separate health food aisle, often tucked away with other niche dietary products. But the marketers behind Silk understood the power of location and context. By moving it to the main dairy aisle, they subtly communicated that it belongs alongside and is a direct alternative to traditional milk. They marketed it and boxed it the way milk is, similar carton shapes, familiar designs, making it visually congruent with dairy options. The strategic placement removed a barrier to purchase, making it an intuitive choice for anyone looking for milk, regardless of type. And finally, The structure of the name itself, Silk, is incredibly compelling. Let's face it, they could have called it something less appealing, like Moi, a simple combination of milk and soy letters. But frankly, nobody would have bought it, right? The structure of the name is short, memorable, evocative, and hints at the desired sensory experience. It's easy to say, easy to remember, and pleasing to the ear. It exemplifies how thoughtful structure, even in a single word, can make all the difference. So, the profound lesson from this humble carton of soy milk, and from all the principles we've discussed, is clear. If you get the message right and you communicate it effectively, you can make a big difference. Whether you're selling cookies, leading a team, teaching a class, or building a brand, the power lies in mastering these foundational elements. Therefore, I want for each and every one of you what I wish for all of my students: bold communication that's confident and compelling. I want you to step into every interaction with conviction, to articulate your ideas with clarity, and to move your audience with purpose. And beyond the immediate impact, I want for your message to echo long after you leave the room. I want your words to resonate, to be remembered, to inspire continued thought and action, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond the moment of delivery. These aren't mystical talents or innate gifts given to a select few. These are tangible, learnable skills that are absolutely at your disposal. They are within your reach, ready for you to cultivate and refine. It just takes practice, consistent, deliberate effort to apply these principles, and a little bit of a positive approach, an optimistic belief in your ability to connect and influence. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope this extensive exploration has illuminated the profound impact of effective communication.